They say as California goes, so goes the nation. Why do we have 6 million registered evangelicals in California? And I think half of them don't even vote. Do you know only 8 million votes determines who the governor is? Why the Christians alone in California? I don't get it. One day, every couple of years, they show up and vote and they could bind the devil. Transgender surgeries, boys in the girls' locker room, the releasing of people from prison that actually should be locked up. All that stuff can be determined by California Christians. I don't get it. Why would they pray but not obey? All right, 6 million. Anyway, I got a pastor who has heard the call of God to get involved with electoral politics, was willing to go to jail for his church, and then felt compelled to stand up for the freedom of people in California. You're going to love this interview with Ché Ahn. And, it makes me think about this. I got this thing called the signet ring. This is something the prophet Haggai spoke about being released in the last days. The Bible says to Zerubbabel, a certain type of a believer, who's involved with government, by the way, that I'm going to give to those that have the Zerubbabel call the signet ring. And the signet ring has 3 important things. It releases the authority in intercession to deal with demonic strongholds and to cause obstacles to be removed in the assignment God gave you. 3 things that'll manifest. I want to teach you about how the signet ring operates, and it's literally a promise. It's in the book of Haggai that God said, I'm going to give to Zerubbabel in the last days the signet ring, for I've chosen that company to do great works. Find out about it. Go to lancewallnau.com/ring. That's how you get it. It's the signet ring. And then let's meet with Papa Ché Ahn. Well, a year ago, we had that moment when, oh boy, what a relief that was. The Trump train pulled into the station, and history was being made right in front of our eyes. And after all the prayer, and I remember watching Charlie Kirk crying tears of relief because he knew, as some other of us did, that we're on lists. About the Operation Arctic Frost, we were on lists of government attacks. They would have come after us with IRS documents and, because we talk politics, but we're also preachers. And they would have hit us. We were relieved, and we were delighted that God moved. Now we've got a new political season. Looks like the left is pushing back with a vengeance, like a coiled spring. All that great awakening and move of God we talk about in America, let's face it, it may be a move happening, but it's not resulting in a penetration in the electoral realm. And brothers and sisters, if we don't guard the government gate, all the gains will be short-lived. So my guest right now is someone I've known for years and I've been friends with. So when he said that God was calling him to run for governor in California, well, I said, I know what a battle that's going to be. However, I want to do everything I can to introduce my audience to him. He could be called Dr. Ché Ahn. He's got an earned doctorate. Could be called Pastor Ché Ahn. He's built a strong church and a network of churches. But he's most affectionately known as Papa Ché because he's like a dad to a whole lot of Christians. Welcome back on the show, actually, because you and I do Flashpoint now and then.
Thank you, Lance, for having me. What an honor, what a blessing to be with you. It's amazing how this started with me having a dream about you, and then I called you, and then I also remembered you said, I want you on my show as you're running, and so one thing led to another, and here we are.
Well, here we are. So, but you're not a stranger to the governor's mansion. The governor tried to lock you up. I want everyone to hear the story because it's like we forget this. Governor Newsom, who's going to want to be president, this guy was shutting down churches, threatening them with fines if they went to church during his reign, the freedom of a tyranny over there, and then the pastors themselves would be sent to jail?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then we see how he just discriminated against the church. He said abortion clinics are essential, they're open. Marijuana dispensaries are essential, they're open. A strip club in San Diego was essential for the armed forces. And he said that they're essential. But that the churches were not. And I saw that. And then when the George Floyd riots took place, he does a press conference, and there was no social distancing, no one's wearing a mask. They destroyed Fairfax. You talk about racism, was anti-Semitic. And yet he commends them. He says, your First Amendment rights must be protected, and God bless you. And I'm thinking, what about our First Amendment rights? So that was early in July, and I just said, you know what? We're going to open up and we're going to sue Governor Newsom because the seed was planted by Matt Staver, my attorney, going back to the call days in 2000. And
when you say the call, for my audience, because we
okay, so the call. So the Lord spoke to Lou Engle to gather young people after the Promise Keepers in 1997 gathered 1 million men, and he said this is a partial fulfillment of Malachi chapter 4, 5, and 6. He's sending the prophet Elijah before the great and terrible day of the Lord. He's turning the hearts of the fathers to the children. But now we need a counterpart. We need to turn the hearts of the children to the fathers, and that we could have either revival or a curse if we don't respond. And so the Lord spoke to him to mobilize young people. He asked me to be the organizer, so I became president and CEO of the call. Now, together, we've been together since 1982, so over 40 years that we've been running together. So that was natural. He's been my prophet, I'm his apostle. And so we put this together, and we thought there would be around 100,000 people that would show up. At 10 o'clock, over 400,000, and this is the number the Park Police gave us. They knew how to measure the Washington, D.C. mall, and came up. It turned out to be the largest youth prayer gathering in the history of America, but we needed an attorney to cover us for liability and any other problems we would have for having a prayer gathering. So Matt Staver was our attorney, and I met him there, and he did a pro bono, and he also said to me, if you sue Governor Newsom, we will cover you financially. But because there needs to be someone that takes a stand. And the reason why I called him was because we opened up and I was going to be in trouble with the law, and I wanted him to protect me. And he said, well, you know, if you sue Governor Newsom, they can't touch you while you're in litigation. Now, if you lose, then you're going to jail, but you have to take that risk. And so I said, well, let me pray about it. And I just took a week. I prayed about it. The Lord gave me a word from Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous, do not be discouraged, do not be afraid, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And then with that word, I met with all our pastors. I called the board of HIM. They said we're all in. Not only that, but Matt said if you really want to make an impact, have the other HIM pastors be part of the plaintiff. I got 145 pastors to sign up, and they said we're all in. So there was a network, like, you know, these prophets that are not going to bow their knee to Baal. They said we're in. And so now I lost in the lower courts. I got a letter from the district attorney saying there's going to be a 1-year jail term for opening up. And they knew I just sued Governor Newsom, and that's what their retaliation is. The classic Marxist, you know, cancel culture playbook. They want to silence me to back off. 1 year in jail, $4.5 million in fines. And then the last paragraph of the letter from the district attorney, we reserve the right to arrest your church members. Now think about it, Lance. We're talking about, you know, citizens that pay their taxes. They don't have any criminal record. Meanwhile, Newsom's allowing, because of Proposition 47, all these drug dealers, drug addicts, rapists out of prison, and they want to arrest us. So we've come to basically what Isaiah 5:20 says, woe to those who call evil good, good evil. And that's where our society has been, especially in California. And so by God's grace, we appealed to the Supreme Court, and we won on February the 5th, 2021. And not only did we win 6-3, I mean, think about it, John Roberts sided with us, and he normally doesn't go conservative, but he did with us, because it was clear that Newsom had violated our First Amendment rights, the right to worship, the right to gather, the right to speak. And so we won a $1.3 million settlement, and we gave it to, of course, our attorney, because they were doing pro bono. And so Matt said that was the largest settlement we've ever received. And so we're glad that we were able to bless them. But that was the beginning of the pathway to take a stand in California with the woke ideology there. It really is like a Marxist state. And the totalitarian, I mean, just the Proposition 50 that we just had, the gerrymandering is another indicator. It's not based on Constitution. We already have a independent commission that was set constitutionally. We bypassed that, and all of a sudden the legislators are now determining, instead of we the people, who's going to win. And he just wants to make sure we have a supermajority of Republicans.
So folks understand this, because not everybody that's in these things is informed on them. So after theoretically after Texas, because of the population we have, was redefined 5 new districts, I guess, where Republicans could be voted in. The word was that California Newsom said, "Oh yeah, well we'll do that too." But I just found out last night they've been working on this for 2 years. This wasn't a response to Texas. They were planning on doing this anyway.
Right.
Because Newsom wants to get this because he wants to become the next president and bring the misery of California to the rest of the country. And so the Republicans in your state are around 40%, 43% of the state?
Well, the Republicans, there's 25% of the state registered Republicans. Now, President Trump won 41% in 2024.
Okay, so
which means that the Democrats and Independents shifted over, and then we had 10 counties that went red, which is a great sign, because I think people are tired of the totalitarian reign of Newsom and the supermajority of Democrats in Sacramento.
So think about it. 10 counties went red, but what Newsom is doing by setting aside that committee that was authorized to do this and say, "Forget you, we're just going to do it ourselves," he's actually going to shrink the representation then of the what is it? The nine.
Oh, it's amazing, because the district lines already is just only 17% of the Republicans really have a voice now. So he's reducing that more. And so basically, it is just a super majority of Democrats that will be represented. It's not a.
So Ché, how do you win in California as a conservative, as a Republican, with only 25% Republican voting?
Okay, well, let me just say this, is that there is a pathway, because there are a lot of conservative believers who are just not engaged. They're so discouraged, they've thrown towels. So we have more evangelicals than any other state except for Texas. But unfortunately, we have 12 million, by the way, and 6 million that are registered, 3 million that are registered don't vote. And so my goal is to awaken the church. If we just got the 6 million registered to vote biblically, we would win every single race. Without the 6 million that are not registered, in other words, the last gubernatorial race, 8 million showed up totally. And so just imagine if 6 million were were Republicans, we would win that race, and we would win all the state assembly. And so our goal is to really, again, pray for revival, because revival begins with the church being awakened, and we need to educate them. And that's why, even on Flashpoint last night, they were advocating that we need to educate. Basically, the problem is that we have real bad theology in the church in California.
Well, I got bad numbers. I didn't know that there were 8 million voters decided the last gubernatorial race.
Yes.
And we have 6 million evangelicals in California?
Exactly.
That are registered?
That are registered. But 3 million of them don't turn out and vote. So we just have...
So if the Christians just cared enough...
Exactly.
To vote.
Absolutely.
They could, it's like rebuking the devil. If they cared enough to rebuke the devil on one day with a ballot or with a vote, they could have a whole couple of years worth of rebukability on the devil.
Yeah. Well, part of it is the bad theology. They have a pre-trib, mid-trib rapture, and I believe in the rapture. I believe that Jesus is coming back and will be caught up with them when he does come. But I also believe that when he does come, he creates a new heaven, new earth. That's my position.
All right. Well, listen, I'm going to have to take a quick break here because of the syndicates I work with. We'll be right back. I got something coming in January at the Trump Doral with all of my favorite doctors. I got a whole group of medical experts going to talk about making you maha healthy. You're going to make you healthy and going to make you wealthy and make you wise for the race of your life, because we're not going to lose. Last year at this time we were celebrating. This year at this time we got a wake-up call. But we're going to win this battle and not lose. Go to lancewallnau.com/wellness, and you'll see why Wallnau is doing a wellness conference January 15th through 18th at the Trump Doral. Listen, it's cold up north. Come down to Florida. All right, lancewallnau.com/wellness. Save your seat. All right, we're back interviewing Papa Ché Ahn, talking about a David and Goliath scenario here where, look, this country is going off, but just discovered in the last segment, there are 6 million registered Christian voters? Evangelicals.
Oh, yeah, because we had the Jesus People movement in '67 in Southern California. Calvary Chapel. Do you know there are more Calvary Chapel church, local churches than 7-Elevens in Southern California?
All right, so if the Christians themselves just cared enough about the California to vote one day, inconvenience themselves and just do it, this has to be the weirdest thing. These are people that go to church, they watch Christian television, but they, for some reason, what is this on California that has them disengaged? I don't think it's that way in Texas.
Yeah, well, you have some of them who basically really have a woke ideology. So the church has been, because we have the whole secret sensitive movement that was birthed out of Southern California.
Yeah, that's right. That's Saddleback. I mean,
yeah, exactly. And basically that we should not be involved in separation of church and state. They drank that Kool-Aid, which is not in the Constitution, nor is it Hebraic thinking, because kingdom involves every sphere of society.
Right.
But the Greek thinking of Platonic thinking of dualism, clergy, laity, separation between secular and sacred. With God, everything's sacred. And then you have separation of church and state. So it goes right down the line. They say, well, you know what? So pastors are not engaged in telling their people to register and vote, because we got to separate. We just got to preach the gospel. I don't know what gospel they're preaching, because we should be preaching the gospel of the kingdom, that Jesus is king and his reign is over every sphere, right, including the government mountain. I know we're preaching to the choir to those who are watching this, but this is so important in Southern California. And then we have this eschatology that things will get worse and worse. So what difference are we going to make? And he's going to rapture us out. It's a very selfish eschatology, because you're
an escapist.
It's escapist. As you're thinking about yourself, you're not thinking about the 3.5 billion that have yet heard the gospel. My eschatology is based on Matthew 24:14. This gospel of the kingdom must be preached to the whole world as a testimony to every nation, ethnic groups. Then the end will come. And so we know that he is coming. And he can speed it up with revival. Can a nation be born in a day? Isaiah 66, as soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. But that is the exception, not the norm. The normal way is for us to partner with God in the Great Commission. And so as we're doing our job, we can hasten the coming of the Lord.
All right, so here we go. We know that the evangelicals could potentially be the pathway to victory.
Yeah.
You're still going to have to make the case to all the non-Christians, and to have this is practical politics. So how do we present to the non-believer?
I feel it's an incredible opportune time like never before, because we have been so woke. Here, think about, we're the 4th largest economy. We're number 1 in homelessness. We're number 1 in crime because of Proposition 47. But Proposition 47 did 11 years ago made a felony into a misdemeanor, which was retroactive in the prison system. So all these felons were released because it's now a misdemeanor and they're hitting the streets. So we spend $5 billion a year on the homeless situation, $24 billion the last 5 years, and homelessness has increased by 40% because all these felons are getting out of jail and they're hitting the streets and they're homeless. They're drug addicts, they're drug pushers. And so we have to be tough on crime. I mean, think about it. You can now go up to a store with your calculator and buy steals $950. It's still against the law, but it's just a misdemeanor, and they're not going to arrest you for a misdemeanor because the courts are over flooded with misdemeanor and felony charges. So people are just getting, and so people like CVS is moving out of San Francisco. Nordstrom just moved out of San Francisco. It's not sustainable to have people just come in and steal. You could carjack, you could steal your Mercedes-Benz, and it's just a misdemeanor. It's ridiculous. So what I want to do as governor is to really enforce Proposition 36, which passed 2024, is to make the misdemeanors a felony. It was passed by 70% of the Californians. But here's the problem. Newsom is not giving 1 cent to it. He's not enforcing Proposition 36. I'm going to enforce it. And what we're going to do is I do believe that I have a solution for the homeless situation to do it with compassion. There are around 20% that are really needing help with housing. 80% of those are people who are drug addicts, drug pushers, and mentally ill. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them an ultimatum that you go through treatment with a nonprofit, faith-based program. We have all these nonprofit organizations, but they're not
They don't get results.
Because we're not allowed to preach the gospel. Like Dream Center with my good friend Matthew Barnett, he doesn't take 1 penny from the government because he can't preach the gospel if he did. And so I'm going to say, with our First Amendment rights, you have the freedom, and I'm going to give you money to treat, because they have a tremendous track record. There are organizations that have the data, the track record of proven transformation of these homeless people. They're getting jobs, they're working, they're being productive. And I'm going to give the money to them instead of failed government policy. Right. We spend $5 billion, we have nothing to show for it. We just see an increase. Every day, this is actually a crime, because every day 7 homeless people are dying on the streets, 365 a year. And so we're just talking about a culture of death that's being perpetuated in California. We've had Proposition 1 that codified abortion to a state constitution, 2023. We have the teenagers who are going through transition, committing suicide at the alarming rate. And so the whole transgender ideology being shoved down kids' throats. And we passed bills where, like AB 1955, that teachers, even Christian teachers, cannot notify the parents that you got to watch out for your son wants to change his pronoun and he wants to go through transition. We can't even notify them by law. And so the parental rights have been taken away. And again, just recent bill, AB 495, that is really legalized child custody from the parents, original parents. Amazing. That anyone could just take the child. And we're talking about human trafficking is going to take place as a result of that. And it is. So human trafficking has tripled under Newsom's watch since some of the woke bills that he signed into law. I could talk more about that, but it's just a problem. It's a mess. And so we have to bring law and order. We have to bring safe communities back, affordable homes by reducing the energy prices, by opening up the wells and producing petroleum once again.
You have petroleum capacity in
California? Oh, my goodness. In one county alone, we have enough natural gas and crude oil, which we need in California for the refineries, to produce enough for our whole state. But we're importing 60% of our petroleum from Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and other places like that because we don't want to be the ones that's polluting the air. They can
pollute the air,
but not for us.
But that air never shows up on your globe.
Exactly.
Right?
Newsom just wants a clean report card. I'm a green environmentalist, and look what we've done in California. And yet the pollution that's happening just unbelievable.
Right. It's like Venezuela crude. We'll import it.
It's hypocrisy. It's just total hypocrisy.
So so if people want to stay connected with you, because you're really this is a populist movement campaign.
Absolutely.
And it's doing it with a faith-based, hopefully a faith-based support base. So what do they need to do?
Well, they can go to Ché, CHE, number 4 for CA, for California, Ché for CA, and they could .com, and they can look at my website. But I want them to realize that I am running for governor for all the people, not just the conservative religious right. I am a pastor over everyone in my church, Democrats, Republicans. Mm-hmm. I have people of every single background. And I want to be the pastor and governor. That's why people call me Papa Ché around the world, because I've demonstrated being a father to the fatherless. And right now we live in an orphan state. I mean, it's just the young males, especially, they're so emasculated. They just are staying home with their parents, smoking marijuana, and just playing with their computer games. And I just want them to get out there. I want to empower them to get jobs. So we have so many regulations. It's hard to start a business. And we have 400,000 regulations, the highest taxes. And so I'm going to reduce the regulations. I'm going to reduce the taxes. I'm going to encourage people to start, because people don't realize I'm also a businessman. I've been a pastor for 46 years, but in 2010 I started my own S corp, and I'm making more money as a businessman than I'm able to turn in my salary, 3 times my salary back to the church, and anyone who knows the books can attest to it. And I've been doing that for 15 years, Lance. So I want to apply the principles that I've learned in business and apply it to Sacramento, because we're now $20 billion in deficit spending for this year alone. Here's the 4th richest economy, and we're $20 billion in debt. And so we're going to get rid of the debt. I'm going to Doge everything. I'm going to audit the bullet train to nowhere. I mean, think about it. We approved $40 billion in 2008. It's up to $100 billion now, and not 1 foot of track to show for it.
All that money, all that California money. How can Newsom campaign?
He can't. This is the thing. When the record goes out, I don't care what he thinks of himself. He's so, if I could just say this, it's just blind ambition. And it's not about we the people, it's about him. And so he uses his position to campaign for 2028 election. That's what he's doing right now with Proposition 50. I mean, let's just be honest about that. So we've had politicians that are absolutely self-absorbed, narcissistic. It's all about them. And it's not about me. It's about the people. It's we the people. It is a populist movement. I wanted to empower people. So we have 35% of the middle class are now living in poverty, and I want to eradicate that. And so it is the economy, stupid, we need to have California affordable again.
I got like around 30 seconds left here, but I do want to talk about who else is running in California. What makes you different than them?
Well, first of all, let me just say they're all wonderful people. I really mean that. I met Steve Hilton. I met Sheriff Bianco. They really want what's best for California. But I'm the only one that signed the Family First Salt and Light Statement, which is pro-life, pro-family, pro-freedom, pro-free market, pro-Israel. They won't sign it. And this is not to cast a negative aspersion on them. They may have reasons. They think in California, to win the Democrats over, they probably will lose if they sign it. But to me, I believe I win the conservative Democrats over because I'm an Asian immigrant. We have 51% of California are people of ethnic background. And I came when I was 5 years old, legally, obviously, with my parents. And we have lived the American dream, and I want to give that opportunity for every immigrant that's in California. We have over 200 different languages spoken just in Los Angeles alone. And so I feel my pathway, whereas all of them, and nothing against being white male, I'm not into DEI, but I stand out to all of them. And the Democrats think that way. And so I think if they're going to look for a Republican that's common sense oriented, that want to restore parental rights again. 70% of Democratic moms want the parental rights to be restored and not the state to take over their kids. And so I feel like I have a pathway to convince them when
we got to get the message out, folks.
That's it.
I'm 1 minute over. Remember that, Ché4CA.com. And you can keep in touch with him and follow me. Are you on any social media also?
Yes,
Instagram?
all my platforms. Yes, they can check out my Instagram, my Facebook account, everything.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us.
Well,
Papa Ché.
For having me.
And I can't believe where the time went. Boom, that was it. All right. See you tomorrow for my main platform. God bless.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.